Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Some of you guys were here last week. Some of you guys weren't. Either way, thank you for showing up. We all came here a week ago, and the death toll was 2,200 Palestinians. And a week later, it's risen up to 4,600 Palestinians, including 1,960 children. Today, we're gathered here in solidarity with the people of Gaza, who are still suffering a brutal assault by the Israeli military. We stand united to condemn the ongoing occupation, the displacement of families, and the violation of human rights since 1948 for 75 years. We call for an end to the blockade and the illegal settlements, and it's time for the world to recognize the rights of the Palestinian people and support their struggle for self-determination. It's time that we raise our voices, demand justice, freedom, and equality. Zaid spoke briefly about this, but let's just remember, guys, this protest is not just about politics, it's about humanity, and it's about what's standing up for right and just. It's about advocating for peace and understanding and respect for all people, regardless of their background or nationality. I'm a proud Palestinian. I've never hid the fact that I'm Palestinian. If you know me, that's basically the only thing I talk about. I'm standing here today as someone not just standing up for the human rights of the oppressed, but because I'm a Gazan personally affected by this tragedy. I'm a Palestinian from Gaza, I'm human, and I have family in Gaza, and they're all human. I'm here to tell you their stories. Because back in Palestine, they can't speak up for themselves because electricity is cut off. 2 days ago, a bomb was hit on my family, Abdurraouf Saleh Al-Farra's house. A baby girl, Siwar, a baby boy, Abdurraouf Saleh Al-Farra, his wife, his kids, his daughter-in-law, and 2 breastfeeding babies, 9 humans, were killed. Abdurraouf was doing 2 jobs. The main one was in the hospital trying to help those wounded, and in the evening he would work the local pharmacy. This is our family. What often gets lost through these times is that 4,600 is not just a number. These are human beings. It's not just a statistic. These were beating hearts. Do not get used to this. You need to stay sensitized. I know you guys have seen all these videos. I know you guys have seen all these pictures. You need to stay sensitized. Don't get used to seeing mothers embracing the lifeless bodies of the children that they birthed themselves. Don't get used to the rising death count. Don't get used to the white body bags. Don't get used to their screams, their tears, and their agony. I need you guys to stay sensitized. Do not let your tears dry. Do not let your rage evaporate. And remember that every time you see a video, every time you see a picture, it's not just a video, it's not just a picture, that was a life. This is not a statistic. The difference between 4,599 and 4,600 is still 1 life. You guys look around you here today. We need to stay sensitized. There was a flyer sent out to my family yesterday, and it was threatening them to leave their house, otherwise they would become victims of a terrorist attack. The flyer reads as follows: "Your presence in northern Gaza puts your life in danger. Whoever chooses to not leave northern Gaza to southern Gaza, he may be identified as a partner of the terrorist organization." If this isn't the very definition of collective punishment, genocide, assuming that if innocent civilians don't leave their own homes and they still have nowhere safe to go and they're going to be treated as military targets, I don't know what else is. We need to stay sensitized. I told you guys the story of my paternal family last week. I have a grandmother who grew up in Gaza, in Khan Yunis, the second largest city in Gaza. The Al-Farra family is my family. I have a lot of family there, alhamdulillah still alive, but I also have a lot of family there that has died. Not just died, they were murdered. They were going through occupation then, and they were going through occupation now. My family has been there for 6 decades. This really puts it into perspective how long this has been going on for. My paternal grandfather's family is in Gaza City, and even before the current Israeli assaults, there were some in 2014. August 1st, 2014, 10 members of my extended family were killed by multiple Israeli missile strikes on their home, with the last deadly missile having been fired as the children were running away from the house. They didn't make it out. The dead included several children under the age of 10, and fast forward 9 years, several humans under the age of 10 were just killed yesterday. We have been facing this for 75 years. Our past 2 weeks has been my entire family anxiously scanning WhatsApp from dozens of our family members in Gaza just to make sure that everybody is alive. We wait for a single notification just to confirm that our bloodline is still going on. Growing up, my grandmother used to tell me stories of her house in Gaza, the family house, and she used to tell me how it was lined with figs, it was lined with all these trees and fruits like for ages. You could just sit there and pick them. She used to tell me all the time that we were gonna go to that house one day in Gaza, we were gonna sit at the dining table, and we were gonna make my favorite food, which is wara'ina. We got the news just a few days ago that this beautiful house that I heard about for all my 19 years of living was leveled. It was completely destroyed. All of the memories, the 80 years of memories, completely gone. My father had memories in that house and he swore that we would recreate them. We never got to go, none of my siblings got to go, none of my cousins got to go. And the worst part is we can't even bring ourselves to tell our grandparents that the house was leveled because we're afraid it'll break their hearts. My father's uncle had to leave Khan Yunis, his childhood home of 80 years as well, memories spanning 5 generations, and with 5 minutes notice, they get a call, which is an automated call the Israeli military sends you saying you have 5 minutes to leave your house, pack everything you can and go. I know you guys, alhamdulillah, all have houses to live in. If you guys had to sit there in 5 minutes and figure out what you could take away, just in 5 minutes you've been living there for 80 years. The most important thing is human lives, that's all they take. My cousin is a college student in Gaza, and he dreams of being a doctor one day, and I hope to dear God he can make that dream come true. Our cousins, our uncles, our aunts were warned to flee to the south only to get pounded with just as many bombs once they got there. An uncle who got approved to leave via the Egyptian border, the border got bombed as he was getting there. After electricity, water, and food to Gaza were cut off by the Israeli military as part of their strategy of collective punishment of the entire population, a violation of international law, my father got the following text from his cousin. They said, "We still have life, but we don't know for how long." A Palestinian father getting this text message from his family who he's known his entire life, we still have life, but we just don't know for how long. Palestinians have been living under an open prison for 70 years under the crimes of occupation, and it kills us whenever we pleases. It cuts off our food, it cuts off our water, it cuts off our electricity. Palestinians are people who only demand freedom and only demand rights, which is the bare minimum that any human could ask for. Palestinian children have resorted to writing their names on their hands so that if they get killed, they can be identified. If they get killed without their mother, without their father, they can be identified. Half the time they can't be identified because the injuries are so severe that you can't even tell whose face it is. Palestinians scream out, "If I die, remember that I and we were individuals, we were humans. We had names, we had dreams and achievements, and our only fault was being classified as inferior." Being in America and being suffocated with survivor's guilt, just waiting on a single text from our family, and when we don't get it, we have to wonder, is it because their phone died or is it because they died? Getting texts like this from our family and our blood telling us that they're just trying to hold on to whatever possible, and getting texts that confirm to us that they're just still merely breathing, and when we get that text, we sigh in relief. That's Palestinian reality. Their occupation has to end. Everybody gathered here today all agrees this occupation has to end. Anybody who's saying there's not an occupation, there is an occupation. When the Israeli military communicated an order telling 1.1 million residents of northern Gaza they have 24 hours to evacuate their homes or risk death and destruction, my father got this text from a cousin who has 4 kids, including 2 newborn twins. We tried to flee to the southern part of the Gaza Strip, as Israel is forcing us to do so. But we couldn't even do that. The situation is very difficult with thousands of people attempting to flee, overcrowding roads, and thousands of people living in the streets since their homes were destroyed. Women, children, and elderly are carrying the little so they can walk, and walking up to 20 miles before reaching the southern parts of Gaza. Meanwhile, we know the towns that are in the southern parts of Gaza are also overcrowded with thousands sleeping on the street. We have decided to stay in Gaza City and die in dignity rather than live through the humiliation and pain of being forced to leave our home. This is reminding us of everything our parents and our grandparents went through in 1948 in the Nakba. This is just Nakba Part 2. When Israel was established after expelling 750,000 Palestinians and ethnically cleansing 500 villages. As I stand here today, I'm going to tell you guys, don't ask me or any other Palestinian to be lukewarm in their support of regaining our home because anybody is uncomfortable. I have watched Palestine be bombed since I was born. It is 19 years later and Palestine is still being bombed. I am tired and I am scared and I am angry. My people are being ethnically cleansed. They're the victims of terror and war crimes. People have been experiencing violence and dying regardless. People have been trying to keep to themselves peacefully and dying regardless. About half of the 1.3 million people in Gaza are under the age of 18. 5 people from my family under the age of 18 were killed yesterday. I'm standing on this platform speaking for my family and every Palestinian, the Palestinians who are alive fighting for their lives and the Palestinians who died fighting for their lives and their land. My 11-year-old cousin sends us messages asking us to send it to the Western world since she feels their struggles fall on deaf ears. She's 11 years old and she feels unheard and she feels silenced. America, you have failed every single child and every single human fighting for their own basic rights back home in Palestine. I'm gonna play you just a small clip that my cousin sent me back in Gaza. His name's Ahmed, and he just wanted to have his voice heard somewhat. He's speaking English in case none of you guys can understand Arabic. Here we go.
I am Ahmed from Gaza, Palestine. I am 13 years old. I hate war. The war stopped me playing football with my friends. I hope this war ends very soon to not lose any of my family and friends. I am very afraid at night because the bombing is everywhere. Please save us as soon as possible you can. We are civilian and we are out of the game. We evacuated from our home and I want my place very soon. I mean it.
He's 13 years old, and he's begging for people who just cannot see. He's begging for them to end the occupation. He's begging for them to do something because he's been struggling with this since he was born. He was born in Gaza, he was born in Palestine, and he's been having to go through this every single day. In the video, he said he just wants to play. The children of Palestine do not live the same world that the children in America do. The children in America, you guys can go out on bikes whenever you please. Children in Palestine have to find out if their bike, number one, isn't exploded. Number two, if they're even allowed to go on the street without thinking they're gonna get shot. 9 out of 10 of the children in the Gaza Strip suffer from some form of post-traumatic stress disorder. 97% of the water is undrinkable. 35% of children are at risk of not meeting full development because of poverty, poor nutrition, and lack of access to basic services. 50% of Gazans have food insecurity. They don't know when their next meal is going to be. They have endured a crippling blockade on Gaza by land, by sea, and by air for the past 16 years that limits electricity, often only up to 4 hours a day, and limits food and supplies and the freedom of movement. Children who are sick cannot get treatment. Children who are sick with cancer cannot get treatment. Fishermen who are just trying to get some fish to feed their young ones cannot venture more than 3 to 4 nautical miles off their own coast. What people do not realize is that suppressing a population of over 4 million Palestinians, like I just described, is inherently violent. We renounce all violence against civilians, including, of course, violence against innocent Israelis, but where is the outcry for every Palestinian that is killed each and every day under occupation? outcry for the daily home incursions in the West Bank, for the killing of 447 children, the killing of just in the past 2 weeks, 1,960 children. Why the selective outrage when the violence only affects one side? What we're dealing with here is not a politics, religion, or ethnic issue. It's a human rights issue, and everyone needs to understand that. We can simultaneously express sympathy for the loss of life of innocent Israeli civilians, but also decry the unethical collective punishment that 2.3 million Gazas are currently experiencing, along with the loss of Palestinian lives too. Martin Luther King Jr. once said that true peace is not merely the absence of tension, it is the presence of justice. And people say we just want peace. You can't have peace when you have your foot on someone's neck. Peace doesn't happen when you restrict their food and restrict their water and restrict their medicine. Peace is not being under a 16-year blockade where you can't get treatment for your father if he has cancer. It's not having access to food or medicine, just basic necessities to survive. Justice is not being occupied. We want peace and we want justice, and it will not happen without addressing the apartheid and addressing the occupation. Woo! True peace will not just happen with a normal return to calm. True peace and justice mean an end to 75 years of ethnic cleansing and a 16-year blockade on Gaza, an end to apartheid, to confiscation of Palestinian lands, to the daily raids of Palestinian homes in the West Bank, to constant Israeli settler violence towards Palestinians that has the full backing of the Israeli military, and to constant settlement expansion on stolen Palestinian lands, to home demolitions, and to unfair apartheid housing and permit laws that make it impossible for you to create your own house or your own business. What gets lost at times like these is that Palestinians are just human beings. We are all human beings. If you all look around, great turnout, we're all human beings. We all have dreams, we all have hopes, we all have aspirations. Every single Palestinian has a dream, has a hope, has aspirations, and most of those is actually just hoping they get out of this alive. Ahmed, the one who you just talked to, his dream is he just wants to be a normal kid and play outside with his friends. He can't get that. If we want true peace, we need to demand justice. This may all seem like a tall order, but if you look around with how many people here, if we all work together towards that common goal of equality, towards that common goal of human rights and an end to apartheid and the blockade, it will be achieved. It will. Every single one of you guys has a responsibility. Each person here, you guys can all do your part. If you're unsure about what's happening, if you're here and you're just here to support, thank you. You're unsure what's happening, if your friends are unsure what's happening, educate them, because the best way to educate is through discussion. Educate yourselves, speak up for human rights and equality for the Palestinian people. Demand accountability from your elected representatives by contacting them regarding important votes and laws that have to do with the Palestinian cause and Palestinian people. In light of recent events, I want to stress that we should not turn to reactive advocacy, but we should turn to proactive advocacy and proactive awareness. And what I also need you guys to understand is let's not wait until we see another video of a white body bag or another video of a mom holding her lifeless child until we demand this advocacy, because we're demanding it now. We need to speak up. We need to speak up because the time has been and it will be now, and it will continue to be now until this ends. Donate or volunteer your time to organizations that help the Palestinian cause. Donate to the Palestinian Middle East Alliance. Mentor a resident student. You can participate in BDS, grassroots solidarity efforts, Palestinian Legal, U.S. campaign for the Palestinian rights. You guys can buy Palestinian products. That does a lot more than you think. You can amplify and raise awareness for the Palestinian struggle, for equality, and an end to apartheid via social media. I know all of you guys have phones. You guys all have social media. It takes one single post. I've seen people post Italian dinners. I've seen people post things like happy birthday. And that's great, but where is the advocacy for all the children dying? We need to remember, guys, that in the face of these injustices, we are not helpless. The media makes us seem out to be. You look around, one thing about Palestinian people, one thing about this community is there will always be a community. There will always be a strong sense of community. Every single person here has your back. Together we can make a difference. We need to amplify our voices, raise awareness, and work towards a future where Palestinians can live in dignity, in peace, and equality, so we can not just put an end to the current bombardment, but also achieve justice and fix the conditions that caused them in the first place. We need to put an end to the apartheid, we need to put an end to the occupation, and we need to put an end to the subhuman conditions that Palestinians live under each and every single day. We need to put an end to the apartheid. We need to put an end to the blockade. We need to put an end to the occupation. And again, we need to put an end to the subhuman conditions that every Palestinian lives under each and every single day. Free, free Palestine!
Free, free Palestine!
Free, free Palestine!
Free, free Palestine!
Do not stop amplifying your voices. Speak for those who cannot be heard back in Palestine. Use your voices. You guys have it and they don't. Speak now.
Takbir!
Thank you.
Allahu Akbar!
Woo!